Coming up on Tech News Today, Tim Cook says things, Marissa Mayer plans things, and Blekko searches things differently. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, May 29th, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by GoToMeeting with HD Faces by Citrix, the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate with colleagues and clients from anywhere. You can share the same screen and see each other face-to-face with HD video conferencing, even from an iPad. Sign up for your 30-day free trial today. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and use promo code TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Aya Zaktar.
I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show where we keep you up to date on the most important stories in the tech world, starting each time with the top 10 stories of the day in the News Fuse. Apple CEO Tim Cook chatted with All Things D's Kara Swisher and Walt Mossberg yesterday evening, saying things like, "We make the best phone," and "We don't use tax gimmicks," while not saying much about Apple televisions or wearable tech. He did confirm that Johnny Ive has been redesigning iOS and OS X, and we'll see the results at WWDC on June 10th. He also hinted they might loosen up the iOS API a bit for third-party developers, but probably not to the level of like a Facebook Home or anything.
Taking Facebook Connect head-on, Amazon is launching its own login service to app developers and websites called Login with Amazon. You can use it for quick login credentials. You can share parts of your profile through apps, games, and other sites. In trials with both Zappos and Woot, both Amazon properties claimed significant pickup from customers. The service is free to use, and with 200 million registered Amazon users, I'm going to go ahead and guess it's going to be a big hit.
Microsoft is introducing its Surface Pro to Japan. Starting on June 7th, Microsoft will sell a 128GB model for about $1,000 and a new 256GB model for around $1,200. Both Japanese Surface Pros will come preloaded with Microsoft Office Home and Business 2013. That software is not preloaded on any other Surface Pros in the world. Japan will also get some unique covers for the Pro. The 256GB model will also be sold in other countries, but Microsoft didn't detail which ones and when.
Cuba's getting something too, the internet. Cuban newspaper Gaceta Oficial announced the government will allow limited public access to the internet, although home access will still remain restricted in the country. 118 locations will allow web surfing for the equivalent of $4.50 an hour starting June 4th. The BBC reports most Cubans get the internet right now at work, at school, or if they happen to be around a luxury hotel. The connections will still be monitored very closely.
But the next question is, how are they going to feel about Facebook Home? Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg says Home is only the beginning. On stage at the D11 conference, she said the company will update the platform monthly as promised, so that the company is committed to making the mobile phone more social. Review-wise, Sandberg says, yeah, people seem to love it or really hate it, but those that love it are already really big Facebook users. And even those who hate it still love that preview pane and chat heads. In other words, Facebook Home isn't going away anytime soon.
Because someone demanded it, YouTube just added a slow-mo feature to its YouTube editor. Under the enhancements section, click the turtle icon so you can reduce the speed of your far too fast YouTube video. In a demo clip, YouTube showed that it can create super smooth video that looks like it was shot using a high-speed camera.
Thanks,
No problem.
GameBeat reports Blizzard's much-anticipated original MMO codenamed Titan will not come out anytime soon. The company reassigned 70 people from the team of 100 working on Titan and apparently is starting over. The expected publishing date has now been delayed to 2016, according to GameBeat's report. Blizzard has not confirmed any details about the project other than the fact that it exists.
Apps like Mailbox that turn Gmail into something more designy and intuitive are really there, in part because Gmail hasn't changed much since 2004, at least until today. Yeah, it looks like those leaked screenshots were legit. Google now sorts your emails in up to 5 categories. They appear organized in tabs across the top of your inbox. primary, social, promotions, updates, and forums. You can choose which of the 5 tabs you want displayed, but you can't make custom tabs, at least not yet, although folders and labels can still be customized.
Ars Technica's Dan Gooden reports that a Ruby on Rails security vulnerability that the publication reported on in January has been exploited. Security researcher Jeff Jarmock posted that unpatched servers are being infected, then forced to join an IRC channel on the way to joining a botnet. Ruby on Rails users should make sure they're running versions 3.2.11, 3.1.10, 3.0.19, or 2.3.1.5 or later, since those versions are immune to the attacks.
10-4, good buddy. Intel confirmed that it purchased ST Ericsson's global navigation satellite system business. Now, ST Ericsson announced it sold that business back on Tuesday, but didn't name the buyer. Intel will pick up tech-related GPS and GLONASS, as well as 130 employees. The price of the deal was not disclosed.
This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by GoToMeeting with HD Faces by Citrix. When your entire team can get together, it's kind of amazing what gets accomplished. Projects that take weeks can now take a lot less longer. Decisions that take days are done right there and then. But gathering everyone together from those different locations can be time-consuming, can be expensive if you have to fly them around. In fact, if you have to fly them around, often it's plain impossible. That's why we use GoToMeeting with HD Faces. It makes it easier for your entire team to get together online whenever you need to, no matter where people are. With GoToMeeting by Citrix, you share the same screen, so you stay on the same page, and the built-in HD video conference makes your online meeting like being in the same room. Just turn on your webcam, look in it, you can see them, they can see you. Simple to launch or join a meeting from anywhere using your computer, your smartphone, your tablet. You can even present from an iPad, for goodness sake. I was just down in Santa Clara for Baycon last weekend, right across the street from Citrix. They've been in Silicon Valley for years. These guys know what they're doing, and they've made a great product with GoToMeeting. We've used it a bunch. We love it. So why not try it yourself? Go get it for free for 30 days. Try GoToMeeting free for 30 days. Don't wait. For this special offer, visit gotomeeting.com, click the Try It Free button, and use the promo code TNT. Remember, use that promo code TNT. Now, as you know, the GoToMeeting with HD Faces lets you meet face-to-face with your team no matter where in the world you're located. We have wanted to know, we've been asking people about this, if you could have a meeting with anyone famous, doesn't matter if they're alive or not, this is all imaginary, using GoToMeeting with HD Faces, who would it be and why? Tweet your answer using hashtag TNTWebcam and hashtag GoToMeeting for a chance to win a free HD webcam courtesy of GoToMeeting. Remember, to be eligible to win, you need to tell us who you'd have your face-to-face GoToMeeting with. If GoToMeeting could resurrect anyone historical and put them on HD Faces, who would you want to talk to and why? Using hashtag TNT webcam, hashtag GoToMeeting. Contest ends Thursday, May 30th. You got one more day. You got till tomorrow night, 11:59 p.m. Winner will be announced next Tuesday, June 4th. On an episode of Tech News Today. Contest is open only to U.S. residents. For contest rules and regulations, visit inside.twit.tv blog, and don't forget to try GoToMeeting free today. We thank Citrix for their ongoing support of Tech News Today. Joining us now to discuss the stories of the day, very happy to have CEO of Revision 3, Jim Louderback, back on the show. How's it going, Jim? It's been too long.
Yeah, it has. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Great to have you along. Of course, Jim and Sarah and I have worked together for years and years over the years, going all the way back to the ZDTV, Tech TV days. So let's start off by talking about Apple, a consistent topic throughout all of those years. Tim Cook, of course, sitting down at All Things D yesterday, said all kinds of things. We mentioned some of them in the news fuse. Said it didn't say a whole lot about products like Apple Television. Did say wearable tech is interesting. People trying to make hay out of that. Although I did notice that Jason Heiner over at ZDNet was pointing out that some of the things he said about wearable tech seem to imply the right approach to it, which is you got to make it interesting to people who don't wear watches. But the thing that got me most interested is this idea of allowing access to the iOS API. Jim, if they loosened up that access a little bit and you could do some more things like you can do with Android, we could do some amazing things on iOS. How much do you think they're going to loosen this up, though?
You know, I think he talks a good game, but it is Apple, and Apple likes to control so much of the user experience, and that's not a bad thing. You create great stuff when you can control everything. So I just don't think that Apple overall and the people in there are going to give too much access because they really, really, really are focused on that great experience.
Yeah, I can't imagine what they would do, and I don't know if we're going to hear about that at WWDC, or whether we're going to actually hear more about the new look and feel. Ayaz, are you excited? Which one are you more excited about? More functionality?
I think a redesign would be much needed so people can see a difference, but functionality to me is much more important. iOS works really well right now, and I think if Apple's going to open it up at all, they're going to have like limited select partners. Maybe you'll have 3 to 4 choices instead of just 1, or maybe just 2. The thing is, they've baked in Facebook, Twitter, Vimeo, a whole bunch of at least Vimeo is rumored. A lot of these things are going to be in iOS 7, so to give a lot more partners the option to have their browser be the default browser, to have a different Maps application from a select anointed few, perhaps that's the way that Apple will open up. But I seriously doubt it'd be anything close to Android, would let you do pretty much anything you want on that operating system.
Yeah, I think Apple would have a really hard time giving too much control to one application being able to speak to another application. But think of something like Siri. I mean, if you can launch pretty much any app you have installed via the Siri interface, all of a sudden Siri becomes a lot more useful to me. And yeah, if Apple has certain trusted partners, so let's say, the Facebook app, right? Facebook is built into iOS now, has more functionality with other apps that have, I guess, in some way been pre-approved by Apple, so that those two can work in conjunction, not just not just like fast switching between apps, but actually sharing data at the same time. I see iOS becoming a lot more interesting to a lot more people.
I think
I think about what would happen if they added in the ability to totally change the interface, right? So what if you did things like StarDock does on Windows, for example? That to me is something that is a little bit further beyond where I think Apple's actually going to go.
Yeah, I think you're right. I would like to just have the ability to have a default browser that's not Safari, and I don't expect them to give me that either. I think it's going to be really limited if they do loosen up that API. It's going to be, and they're going to make a big deal about what they do. It's only going to be 1 or 2 things, and they're going to celebrate this new vision, this new look, this flat Johnny Ive thing. He's already out there saying like, oh yeah, Johnny Ive's been great. We're loving what we're seeing from him. So that's going to be the star of the show at WWDC. I'm curious what Johnny Ive's been doing on OS 10 now, because we've seen a lot of leaks about iOS, but not so much about OS 10. Let's talk about what Marissa Mayer is doing. Interesting story on Wired today about her take on revolutionizing a company.
Yeah, Wired's Ryan Tate says Marissa Mayer is bringing back the internet portal. Now, Tate says Mayer is broadening Yahoo's scope, citing its acquisition of Tumblr, Sumly, and multiple reports that are floating around again that Yahoo's back in the running to pick up Hulu. Now, their common thread here is to expand into new areas. Now, Tate makes the case that Google and Facebook have actually turned into portals. Yeah, everybody makes fun of portals in the old days, but the thing is Google has a social network, Facebook has a social network. They're getting all of this data on you. But unlike those two businesses, Yahoo has to cobble together a bunch of data about you using Yahoo searches, Flickr Finance, and getting Tumblr helps them get a larger picture of who you are. Jim, do you buy Tate's theory? Is Yahoo trying to become a portal again or try to expand as a portal?
Here's the thing. I don't think the portal ever really went away. I think for certain people who are sort of much more internet savvy, yeah, we sort of cobble together our own experiences, but we've always done that with our RSS readers and our other things that allow us to pull that together. If you look at for the hundreds of millions of people in the U.S. that use the internet every day and around the world, portals in many ways are their first and last stop on the internet. Well, at least their first stop. I know we look at some of the views that we're able to get on the internet, and I've been surprised how much MSN, Yahoo, and AOL are still extremely relevant for the sorts of people that kind of watch our stuff, even though YouTube remains a big place. The portals, I don't buy that they even went away.
Sarah, sometimes we laugh about portals in general because Yahoo tries to put up as much data as possible. It seems like iGoogle was kind of a portal, and it seems like Google's kind of recreating that with their whole cards interface for Google+. Do you think the portals have ever gone away, or have they just evolved?
I think that they've evolved. Certainly, something like Facebook is a great example of rebuilding a portal that didn't really seem like one at the beginning because it was all about, hey, it's friends and let's comment on each other's photos and that sort of thing. But it was really just a reimagining of keeping you in one spot where you get your news, you get your updates, you can share your own original content and so forth. I think with Yahoo's most recent acquisitions, Certainly Tumblr, but yeah, Sumly, because that's a place for you to quickly scan news. So it sort of still has that kind of almost micro-bloggy type of thing. You see a lot of stuff in your news feed at once. It does seem like, and then, you know, and throw Flickr into it, because Flickr is still really sort of that independent property that could somehow be a lot more closely integrated with Yahoo's other properties and make it really interesting. It does seem like if Yahoo can get cohesive with its extremely popular brands that a lot of people are visiting on a regular basis, then the portal thing is just the next logical step. But it is kind of a leap from where Yahoo is now.
Tom, what's your take on Wired's theory? It seems like Yahoo has been doing some acquisitions. They're rumored constantly with Hulu. Does it seem like they're just expanding?
Yeah, Ryan Tate's a smart guy, and he's got a good point here, saying that having more data about people is a theme in these acquisitions, and that makes sense, monetization, et cetera, et cetera. And Jim's right. There's a lot of people still using portals. I think the reason they get a bad name is they don't see the stellar growth that new companies do, that new things like Twitter, et cetera, have, or Facebook even, which, you know, as you can see Facebook starting to approach this, right? As they reach a certain saturation point, they can't grow as fast, and people start talking about, well, maybe Facebook's done too. That's just natural for the marketplace to do. I don't think we know what Marissa Mayer is doing yet. I think it's really easy to jump on every decision she makes and every even rumored decision she makes and saying, well, this is her strategy, and obviously it's not working. I think what we're going to see is when Yahoo starts to close more things, what the strategy is. I have a feeling she's building something more similar to what AOL has been doing in gathering together pieces that don't necessarily have to exist in a unified product. That Yahoo will be sort of the aggregation, the federation of various content properties. Because remember, Marissa Mayer is the one that kept the Google front page white and simple and a text box. And I don't think she's changed that much. So I don't think we've seen exactly what she intends to do with this company yet.
I think we've partially seen it with the Yahoo homepage redesign. The Yahoo original portal was a real cluttered mess, very hard to find data. Now, it looks like Meyer's influence has stripped out some of this stuff. We've seen some card-like interfaces that we've seen with their weather apps for iOS. It's also on their homepage. I think as long as Yahoo can present their information, it doesn't matter how much data they have. If you can't find anything on there, it doesn't make a difference. And that's why we've seen this simplification of Yahoo in general with this design without scaring too many people, because the redesign isn't huge. But I think with Sumly, that's also going to help it, because you'll have short, easy-to-read summations of what's going on, because you're trying to manage like pretty much everything out there. If you have Tumblr and Hulu out there, they probably need a really good way to organize that data.
All right, let's talk about search engine Blekko. You may or may not know about Blekko, but they've got a nice rising tide of usage out there, and they've got a different way of presenting search results, Sarah.
Yeah, that's right. Some people who have used this alternative search engine, Blekko, might recognize the sort of, if you were to search for something like, Jim Louderback, you might then say /revision3 in order to get more condensed results. So those who use Blekko are familiar with it, but Blekko has gotten a really big redesign. So if you think of something like you're searching for a particular topic, you're used to that kind of 10 link above the fold list that search engines give you. Some of the results are different, but in general, the way it looks is always the same. Blekko now is trying to group results into obvious categories that Blekko is grouping based on what you're searching for. So news, social, top results, similar categories. I went ahead and tried a couple different categories. So like I searched for NBA playoffs, and I got a bunch of results that were grouped into categories like basketball, sports betting. Then I searched for Amanda Bynes, which is more of sort of a gossipy search, right? And I got categories in gossip, social, and fashion. So in general, kind of worked okay. Then I searched for my own name, and because I'm just one of many Sarah Lanes out there, and it wasn't really an obvious search because there are streets named Sarah Lane. It was a little bit more all over the place. So I don't think it's perfect, but it's definitely a more interesting approach in order to give context to what you're searching for. And then you've got some color and font controls, and you can force certain privacy settings like only browsing using HTTPS, et cetera. Jim, what do you think? Are search results ripe for disruption? Do we need more context when we're searching for topics in categories?
I think we do. I think it's always nice to have alternatives. The thing that I like about Blekko is the interface looks actually a lot like my new favorite feed reader, Feedly. So I'm now using Feedly, and getting prepared for the end of Google's feed reader stuff, using Feedly to access all my feeds. And Blekko just looks like that. I like the way they categorize things. I like the way they pull stuff together on the left-hand side. I don't know if it's going to replace Google for most people, but it is nice to have another alternative, especially when you're when you're researching a topic versus just trying to buy something or trying to find out when a train's leaving.
As we talked in the news views about Gmail sort of now officially trying to categorize your emails for you, is this the sort of thing that you want to see on a search engine? Do you trust the search engine to know how to categorize your searches?
Well, I'm hoping that Blekko has a good idea of what I want. I was looking at Mad Men reviews. Every time the show runs, I like to read the news on it. But when it comes to Google, I have to go to the news section, then do a search there to find these things. If I type it in with Blekko, it actually shows up, and they're grouped. And I kind of like this grouping because you might see things that you probably wouldn't have searched for, because I see top results, and there are movies and TV and other latest news involved with that kind of topic. So I think this design, assuming that Blekko has good algorithms and good search results, like I said before, if the data is not there, it doesn't really matter. But being able to group them, I think you're actually you're reading a lot more. Because, I don't know, maybe you guys have this too. I kind of get like link blindness after a while. After you get past like 10 to 12, I'm stopped reading. I've gone to the next page. With these cards, effectively another cards interface, I think you'll read a lot more.
Tom, what do you think?
I think what we're going to see is Blekko get bought by Yahoo, obviously, because they've got a nice, simple approach, and Marissa's out there. No, I'm kidding about that, but I have to say, I have no need to find another search engine. I occasionally force myself to use Bing just so I have experience using it, and I know why I don't use it every day. Not that it's bad, but it's just not doing anything compelling to bring me over. But using Blekko today was really interesting. I agree with you, I look at this and I'm like, wow, it's kind of nice to just see the most relevant results and be able to kind of break them up into those three categories. And I want to see what they do as they learn more about how this is used and what the best categories are to break things up and their algorithm works. I think it's pretty intriguing. I also don't think it's going to take down Google's market share anytime soon, though.
I think that designs like this it's kind of fun to see search results reimagined, because it's easy to just sort of say, well, it's just a list, right? And if the search engine's good, then what I want will be at the very top or certainly near it. But a lot of these results are categorized, and maybe it would be where you would sort of naturally have kind of gone down the rabbit hole link-wise anyway. And like Jim said, I think that it's a design that's starting to feel familiar to a lot of us. Especially, it kind of almost has like a tablet feel to me. So I like the idea. I don't know, if Blekko is going to be the next search engine that we all abandon other search engines for, but it's probably going to be something that other search engine developers pay attention to and maybe fold into their own designs.
Blekko. Yahoo. I don't know.
That's Blekko with two Ks, by the way. Some people in chat were like, Blekko? Is that the worst name ever?
Believe me, Google didn't sound
very... It's not spelled that badly.
It didn't make any sense either at first. Still sort of doesn't. Amazon wants to make sense out of giving you a one login. Now, we heard about this in the news views. They've done trusted sign-in with their other properties like Zappos and Woot. If you log into Audible, you log in with your Amazon account. And this is an OAuth authorization framework they're rolling out that will allow app developers and websites, at least app developers on iOS and Android, to create Amazon as their login for their property. Lets Amazon pitch them things like payments and product ads to unfold into their site too. So Amazon wants to get them on board with login and then sell them their other projects. But this joins Facebook, Twitter, Google as other sign-in providers out there. I don't know, Jim, do we need another one? Do we need an Amazon login? Is this the solution to the password mess?
We need somebody we can trust. I don't know. Do you trust Facebook? I don't. I kind of trust Twitter. I actually really do trust Amazon. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I use RoboForm for my passwords. I just checked. I've got probably about 400 different sites and passwords in there. So I hope somebody solves the problem. And, a lot of people have trusted relationships with Amazon. And, boy, I definitely trust them more than some of the other folks out there trying to do this.
Yeah, and it's going to get to a point where I'm like, okay, maybe I decide I'm not going to use Facebook, but I trust Amazon and Google to be my login providers. Then I have to remember which one I used, because sometimes this happens to me now where I go to a site, it's like log in with your own credentials or Facebook's, and I can't remember which one I authorized. And I know it's easy to figure this stuff out, but it's supposed to make this easier, right, Sarah? Like, do you think this is better? Do you trust Amazon, actually?
I don't have a problem with Amazon, but then again, if Facebook Connect is the only option, and you do run into that, especially with apps, quite often, I still use it. I find that, you know, if you're familiar with how your privacy controls work on these with these services, I mean, if Amazon service is easy enough for me to say, yes, I'd like to use my login credentials with Amazon, but no, I don't want any sort of review to show up without my knowing on, you know, maybe some Amazon product page. And I have control over how it looks in my profile at Amazon. I don't have a big problem with this because I feel like I'm pretty good at controlling the Facebook experience as well. There's definitely been some bumps on the road, but I know that if I say, yes, I will let you know, this third-party app post something on my Facebook wall, then I can expect to see something like that. So yeah, I think Amazon having choices is good. They've got 200 million registered users. There are going to be a lot of people who might feel a lot more comfortable using an Amazon credential and maybe nothing from Facebook or Twitter or Google or anything else because they're, I don't know, Amazon Prime members, and it's a company that they trust and are loyal to. So I think this is a really good move.
And we talked about this a little in Yahoo too. It's a good move for Amazon in that they can now collect more data. And I'm not implying a privacy violation here, but they can collect more data about how users use things, what sites they're going to, how often they log in. Even that kind of anonymized data is very valuable, but I guess my thing is, do we want somebody who's letting us log in for other purposes manage our logins? I wish there was an open framework and some sort of independent entity. I mean, like RoboForm or LastPass or iPass or 1Password. That's whole purpose is to protect your data.
Well, I think in this particular case, because this is Amazon, this is the place where people shop, you have a totally different feel for it. It's not like Facebook where a lot of people didn't realize that the customer was the product and they were being targeted. When you go to Amazon, you want to be targeted. You want to see those wish list suggestions. You want to see what your friends want you to buy them for their birthday. You want to see these things. So I think Amazon's kind of in a unique situation where people might not mind being followed around and having their data collected, because when you go to Amazon, you actually want to buy something. When you go to Facebook, you might want to see what your friends are doing. You might not necessarily want to see, hey, would you like to buy a sticker for Sarah? You might want to just see, oh, where did you go last night, or what did you do? And I think Amazon can be, they have this whole trust thing down because they've been protecting your credit cards for so long that I think they also have that interest going versus Facebook and Twitter. Sometimes you think of these newer companies, so to speak, and they might not have the same kind of interest in protecting your data. But Amazon can't afford to lose your data.
I'm definitely going to buy stickers for Sarah. They will have cats on them. Meanwhile, we have another story to talk about. Wikimedia launching Nearby, geolocated Wikipedia articles. Explain this to me.
Yeah, so the new Nearby page functionality is based on a user's location, and it's optimized for the mobile web version of Wikimedia properties like Wikipedia. Although you apparently can use it on, regular web interfaces. Although I tried it on Opera Next, it was not supported. So back in January, you may remember that the Wikimedia Foundation, which is sort of the parent nonprofit of the Wikimedia properties, announced a new GeoData extension for MediaWiki, and the idea was to provide a structured way to store geo-coordinated coordinates for articles, so that, with a location coordinate, you can search for something by location rather than, by other topic. Max Semenek, who is a software engineer over at Wikimedia, explains, what we want to do is show users a map of articles needing images near their location so that they can easily take and upload photos of subjects around them missing an illustration. So this is really for people who are already used to contributing to a Wikipedia article and figuring out, oh, wait, I'm nearby this church that was cited in this article about whatever, and I could go ahead and contribute to this article because I'm nearby. So you'd get, some sort of a, the API, it depends on how it's used, but you get some sort of a, a prompt or that sort of thing. Wikipedia was enabled with photo uploads via the mobile web back in March, although the folks behind the project say the bigger vision isn't necessarily restricted to locations nearby, although, there are a lot of people who could benefit from this and be able to participate. Earlier this year, Wikimedia Foundation said 3 billion monthly mobile web page views via the web, and aiming for 4 billion by June or so. Jim, I don't know. I spend sometimes a lot of time looking at location tags on Instagram, and you see all these photos, but they don't really do anything. Is Wikipedia a more logical place to group photos by location that might actually be better as citations?
Yeah, and I think it's more than just photos. I think, certainly photos make sense, but Wikipedia has such a great trove of information about so many arcane things. The thing that I'm really looking forward to as this gets built out, and I hope it does get built out, is a more sort of contextual version of Field Trip. And I don't know if you guys have been using Field Trip on Android, but it's one of my favorite apps from Google that basically taps into a bunch of different services like Thrillist and Daily Secret and Scout Mob or Modelista. And it figures out your location and then feeds you all these articles and pictures. And I just think the ability to be anywhere, everywhere, and get a sense of what's around you has so much power and so much potential. And marrying the Wikipedia text with photos and just giving you context of just what's within 100 or 1,000 feet, I just think has amazing potential. So I say, go Wikipedia, make it great.
Tom, what do you think? To this day, I don't think of Wikipedia as really a great mobile destination, but clearly the organization is working on that. Do you think that this is the next frontier?
I think it's interesting in both senses. I agree with Jim. It's great for traveling if it can surface historical documents or records or explanations of where I am. As long as it's good at it and it's not giving me too much fluff, it needs to have a good sense of what's important. Like if I'm in the United States, I don't want the United States article popping up every time I try it. But I also think the photo thing is important. Wikipedia has a dearth of photos when you compare it to something like Britannica or other encyclopedias out there. And yet, the content for all the jokes people make about it is on par in most analyses. So I think it would be good for Wikipedia to be able to put more imagery in there and make Wikipedia look better. And this is the way to do it, because pulling images off the web, we know this from Wikipedia pulling images out of articles all the time, doesn't give you clear enough rights to use them.
Ayaz, have you contributed to Wikipedia articles in the past, and will you contribute photos?
I have contributed in the past. I can't remember what. I think I was just correcting like an it's confusion because I used to be an editor. I have like a tick about that. I haven't done photos yet.
Oh, not the ice cream sandwich.
No, I did not contribute to its article. Not to be confused with
the apostrophe.
Yes, the grammar issue. I'm just thinking that this is going to cause more people to stand around and stand in my way because they're taking photos of every little thing. Do we need another reason for people to be looking down, going, "Oh, I'm taking a photo. I'm taking a photo." If you've ever been in Times Square, you know what I'm talking about, these tourists who just stop and stand there, and you're trying to just get past them. So it's just going to create this wall of humanity. So Wikipedia, I'm imploring you not to do this. But then again, actually, this is probably awesome for AR in the future. Augmented reality, you probably have it in your Google Glass. You're like, oh, this doesn't have an article? It doesn't have a picture? Okay, Glass, take a photo, upload, all done.
See, the combination of this with Glass will get rid of your tourist problem. Technology will solve everything.
They take virtual tours. Forget that.
Let's finish up with a really interesting analysis from the New York Times about where Sony makes its money. I have always known that Sony makes more on Sony Pictures Entertainment than it makes from Sony Electronics, but the disparity is worse than I thought, and where they actually make their money is pretty surprising.
Yeah, this is really strange. So analysts think that Sony should be making a huge shift in their business. Now, an American investor by the name of Daniel Loeb, he's the manager of Third Point. He wants Sony to spin off and raise cash to bring its, he wants to spin off their music and movie business. This was rumored a while ago as well. And a new report from Jefferies, the investing bank, says Sony needs to exit most electronics markets, and electronics is Sony's Achilles heel. In a quote, it's, in our view, it is worth zero, speaking of their electronics. The Times says that Sony's most successful business is selling insurance. That's not a joke. Sony sells medical and auto insurance in Japan. Now, in the past 10 years, Sony's financial arm earned over $9 billion. Its film and music divisions have made $7 billion. And the electronics division has lost $8.5 billion. Now, on Wednesday, Sony's CEO, Kaz Hirai, said, electronics has a future, and it's in Sony's DNA. It is my mission to revive it. Jim, could they do the unthinkable and throw in the towel on electronics?
Yeah, I don't see them doing that. And I think valuing the electronic business at zero is not really the right way to look at it. Sony has a very powerful brand. There's still a lot of people that see the Sony name, walk into the store, see the Sony name, and buy Sony because it means something. And there is, in certain areas, there's still a premium for that Sony name. And I think if you look at any large business, it's a portfolio. And they've got a number of different divisions that all add up to the total. And as we've seen in electronics, look at what Apple did over the last 10 years. Come out with the right product at the right time, hit the zeitgeist. You can make an incredible amount of money. So I think they just got to keep plugging away. I don't see them getting rid of electronics, but they got to be smarter. They got to go after the newer stuff. They got to make a lot of bets. And I want to see Sony starting to make a lot more bets on new innovative things.
Sony picked up their music and film divisions to help bolster their electronics as well. The idea was that they would be able to take their exclusive content and load it onto their devices, and Sony was siloed for so long. Sarah, do you think it's too far gone for Sony when it comes to this? They have this one Sony approach with Kaz Hirai, and he's successfully gotten their film and music divisions to talk to the electronics division, crazy enough. Should they be doing electronics anymore?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're explaining that Kaz Hirai is trying to turn over what has been somewhat of a free fall for Sony in the electronics world. Sony did a lot of cost cutting, closing down, selling off buildings and closing down plants and firing people. And none of that is good, but it was probably really necessary. Let's kind of rebuild from the ground up. I think the only reason to throw in the towel is, I don't know, if Sony was going through bankruptcy or, the Sony electronics world it makes so much sense to me still. I think we're really far away from saying, Sony should just stick with Hollywood and stop making televisions. I think that they just, they have a little bit of a catch-up period to get through, but, and it's not, it's not pretty, but I think that they do have a future.
Tom, back in 2004, IBM sold off its PC business. If you told me that 15 years ago that would have happened, that sounded crazy. IBM makes PCs. What are they going to do now? Do you think we'll be talking in the future about Sony just dumping electronics, sticking to movies?
Well, this takes me back to our conversation yesterday when we were looking at that article on what companies should do to pivot, right? Who wrote that? I'm trying to dig it up now too. But it's you either diversify, which is what IBM did, which is what Sony has now. They're diversified, so that's an argument for keeping the electronics, or you disrupt the marketplace. Sony doesn't seem to be able to do that in electronics yet, or you become a services company. And I think that's the insurance part of it, right? So, in a short-term sense, yes, it makes perfect sense for Sony to become entirely an insurance company and spin off both the electronics and the Sony Pictures Entertainment. But I agree with Jim. I don't think that's what they should do. I think possibly there could be an argument for spinning off Sony Electronics just to get some new blood in there and see what they can do with it. But there is some valuable stuff in Sony, and sure, they're not making the best use of it. We seem to be echoing this a lot today. What should Yahoo be doing? What should Apple be doing? What should Sony be doing? And maybe they need some new blood in there. But that, like you said, that's what Kaz Hirai is trying to do. So maybe give them a chance, right?
So more integration. What we need is insurance sold through our Sony TVs that connect to Gaikai Cloud so I can play games and then go to my Sony bank, which also exists in Japan, not here. It's kind of interesting that they don't bother to bring some of these products over or make them more international. Just wonder if that name brand scares people to think, oh, I can have Sony car insurance. Not so bad.
Before we get to the randomizer, real quick, thanks to Caffeine Free Dave in the chat room, Paul Thurrott has posted a picture of the start button. Yes, it is back. This is the first screenshot we've seen of the start button returning in Windows Blue. It's a different looking start button, but it is there.
Also the Windows flag that you'll see on Windows tablets these days.
Yeah. Very cool. So check it out, winsupersite.com. He's got a full article about Windows Blue and some screenshots from that. Your desktop wallpaper will be returning to the start screen with all the tiles as well, if you were wondering about that. Let's move on to the randomizer. A Cornell University team have been doing some very important groundbreaking research, which will lead to a robot being able to anticipate when you need a beer and bring you one.
What took so long? This has been a concern of mine forever. You know, you're like, where's that waiter anyway? We don't need waiters. We need robots to pour me beers.
It uses a Microsoft Connect sensor, and it can access a video database of about 120 household activities. And the big deal with it is it's able to tell from your body language and what you're doing, what you might be needing to do next, and then try to assist you.
So you seem slumped over and depressed. Would you like a depressant? Here you go.
A high degree of accuracy, too. Jim, you want one of these, right?
Yeah, I already have one of these. It's called a dog. It's funny. I was looking at a
beer.
No, but it anticipates. I was looking at this and I was thinking, dogs anticipate humans' behavior, and they learn from that. And so, if you start putting your shoes on, the dog's like, "We're going for a walk. We're going for a walk." And so I think that it's great. They've made a robot that has the brains of a dog and that can serve you drinks. Actually, Sarah, I don't know. Cats, I think, can do this. They just ignore you when they learn it.
Yeah, they're not going to share that kind of information. They're very private creatures.
Does anyone wonder why doesn't
cats
the robot
anticipate what you need and then try to figure out how to turn it to their own advantage? That's
exactly.
Why doesn't the robot have a fridge built in? It's got to go to the fridge, got to open the door, got to take the beer out. It should have like a dispenser.
Well, it's doing a lot of things. It's not just going to the fridge. It's also pouring you beer. See? So.
Well, maybe we need to marry this with a kegerator, and we're all fine.
It's going to be a beautiful wedding when the kegerator and the Cornell robot get together. I can't wait for that day. Meanwhile, there are some things on the calendar to look at while we wait.
Why, there is, in fact, Microsoft Surface Pro tablet is coming to Japan on June 7th. And even before that, on Wednesday, June 5th, T-Mobile is getting a couple fun little additions. The HTC One and the BlackBerry Q10 are launching on T-Mobile nationwide.
Excellent. Let's see what's in the incoming box.
It's a message from Jonathan who says, "Hey, TNT gang, on yesterday's show, you wondered if Opera could increase their desktop market share against Chrome IE and the rest. I agree with the team that it's unlikely, but there is one feature that gives Opera an edge. It's off-road mode. Off-road mode can significantly decrease your data usage. As anyone who writes checks to AT&T knows, this is a big deal. Whenever you're using the cellular networks to browse the web, either on your phone or tablet, directly on your laptop, tethered to your phone, Opera is actually saving you money. As an added benefit, pages load faster. Next time you're on a crappy hotel Wi-Fi network, try Opera in off-road mode, and that used to be known as the turbo mode. That's a really good point, Jonathan. Opera could save you money.
Yeah, because it's using Chromium, so now it can take advantage of the Speedy protocol that Google has out there. Really, really good point. Thanks for that, Jonathan. Appreciate that. Jim, do you ever use Opera?
No, I can't say that I do. I'm mostly a Chrome fan, although I should try it. That sounds like a really cool feature.
Yeah, it does. Well, and that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. Jim Louderback, thank you for joining us. You got so much going on over there at Revision 3. Tell folks some of the cool stuff you're doing.
So we just launched a new network called TestTube, which is very much about science and tech and adventure and satisfying curiosities. Imagine, because Discovery bought us a year ago, imagine if you launched the Discovery Channel 30 years later and did it as a web-only network. That's TestTube. So testtube.com, check it out.
Definitely. That sounds great. Testtube.com. Will do. And thanks, everybody, in our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com, for submitting stories, voting them up or down. Helps us pick our lineup each and every day. Couldn't do it without you. Well, we could, but it wouldn't be as good. So go there. Do it. technewstoday.reddit.com. You can also find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. Email us, TNT@twit.tv, and give us a call. Leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. That's it for us. We'll be back tomorrow with Rafe Needleman as our guest. See you then.